Yo, what's good everyone? My name is Alex and I am super excited to share this video with you guys. If you know me, then you know that I love shooting in the rain because most people are not out there in that kind of weather. And the rain creates a lot of those opportunities to capture those story-rich, dynamic photos. So this time I decided to document my photo walk through Times Square in New York City. In this behind the scenes video, you'll see the real creative process behind making a photo, as well as some of the challenges that I faced. I will be sharing both the terrible shots and the good ones, as well as some of my favorite tips and tricks so you can go out and shoot some rainy night photography. The gear that I used throughout this video was my Sony a7 III with my Batis 85 and my 35 2.8. With that said, let's just get right to it. So I started this photo walk a few blocks away from Times Square. I was posted up against the side of this bus stop and was basically just waiting for someone to walk into my frame. Unfortunately, this guy's not in focus since I was focused on the buildings. But with the compression of the 85, I was still able to capture this pretty cool perspective where all the lights and billboards were layered into the background. But it's not that interesting, so this shot's not a keeper. Right after I take the shot, I turn to my right and snap a few more shots of this FedEx driver taking shelter in the back of his truck. This is nothing super interesting, but it's still one of those authentic slice of life moments, which I really like. So I keep walking towards Times Square, and as I'm approaching the end of the block, I see this nice pool of red light shining on the ground. I stop in front of this planter and focus on the guy waiting to cross the street. The autofocus locked on instantly, and I fired off a few shots. This is the final image, and the blue and purple tones create a nice, cool, calm vibe. Surprisingly, there was no one else around him, so this image also evokes that sense of isolation and longing. After I crossed the street, I walked toward this wet bench with beautiful reflections. I got down close to the surface and captured this shot. It honestly did not turn out how I thought it would. It looks pretty bad and it's just not memorable at all. But the orange and black colors are a nice nod to Halloween. At this point, I felt pretty discouraged, but I just kept on moving and tried to capture something better. At the street corner, I see two guys in business suits eating in front of this hot dog cart. I am shooting with my 35 now, so I had to get pretty close in order to frame this shot. I love the overall blue and yellow color palette and how both men were in mid-action. I just wish the hot dog guy wasn't behind the pole, but this was one of those in-the-moment shots, and you get what you get. At the next block over, I see this iconic flag billboard, so I took a shot with the two taxis in front. It's a very New York looking shot, but again, pretty boring with not much going on. I knew there was some potential here, so I stuck around for a bit longer and fired off some burst shots of people walking by. I wanted to capture the people between the cars, so using the burst mode was a must here. I ended up with this shot, which I really love. It's one of the stronger images of the night so far, since you have the foreground elements to draw your eye in, where the subject is in the midground, and then you have the layers of background fading into the distance. By now, I'm pretty much in the middle of Times Square, and the rain is picking up. At this next intersection, I noticed the crossing guard and this man in the wheelchair. As you can see, I used burst shots again to capture this frame where the officer is sticking out his arm, telling the man in the wheelchair to move back. I especially love this shot because with just this one interaction, this image tells a whole story. The light turns green and I cross the street. I immediately spot this man standing there in the rain, MetroCard in his mouth, taking a photo of Times Square. I bring my camera up so quickly you can barely see it. I knew I only had a fraction of a second before he moves. The image I got was perfect. If I was any slower, this moment would have been lost to time. So now that I captured some really nice street shots, I wanted something more Instagrammy. So I decided to trek between these cars to get a cool perspective shot. This is the final image, and I really like how all the cars were black, contrasting with the bright, colorful billboards. The movement in the shot was the cherry on top, creating such a dynamic image. I am now on the other side, in front of the American flag, So I crouch down and try to create something moody with the red and white stripes backlighting my subject. A lot of people walk by, but none of them were quite right for the scene.
You get my good side?
Finally, this couple walks towards me, and I just love their pose and expressions. The interaction in this shot, once again, tells a story. And yes, dude, if you're watching this, that is your good side. At this point, I'm thinking about wrapping up and heading home. As I walk under this scaffolding, I take my last shot of the night. I wanted to get another image with some movement in it. So pro tip, if you don't have a tripod, brace your camera up against something so you can lower the shutter speed. Here you can see I wedged it between the X and this scaffolding and lowered my shutter speed enough to get movement of the police car and the guy riding the bike. This image conveys that hustle and bustle of the city, and the glow from the lit up billboards creates such a great atmospheric mood. Alright, so that sums up my first photography walk behind the scenes video. So I really hope this video inspired you to go out and shoot, because rainy night photography is one of my favorite times to shoot. You are just able to capture more of those raw, candid moments that make such a unique and memorable shot. Those moments where if you blink, it's gone. A lot of the shots were pretty boring and just throwaways, but there were a few keepers in there as well. So if you like this video, please hit that like button and even drop a comment down below. If you want to support my channel, I would really appreciate it if you hit subscribe. It would mean a lot. Let me know what kind of behind the scenes video you want to see next. Thanks for watching. Peace.